In Iraq, Kurdish forces are advancing on jihadists from the Islamic State that have occupied the northwest of the country. With the help of US airstrikes and Shia volunteers, they have managed to take over a militant stronghold, killing 2 senior fighters. Meanwhile, Western leaders are raising the alarm over possible jihadist attacks on European and American soil. And this has prompted a wider debate over the West taking on the Islamic State. RT's Marina Kosterova looks at some of the proposed solutions.
As more countries admit they're up against an abstract threat from international fighters joining Islamic State, it's more important than ever to find a common solution.
I don't want to put the cart before the horse. We don't have a strategy yet. There's no point in me asking for action on the part of Congress before I know exactly what it is that is going to be required for us to get the job done.
America might not know what to do yet, but Germany seems to have an idea: to spend 70 million euros arming Kurdish forces to deter Islamic State militants in Iraq, where it's believed some 400 radicalized Germans are fighting.
When terrorists seize control over an area to create a base for their reign of terror and a retreat for other fanatics, this creates a danger for us. It affects our security interests.
But is getting even more involved a viable way forward?
I'm not sure if the Kurds, especially if there are influences from the PKK is known to be a terrorist organization. The PKK is on the terror list for both the European Union and for the United States. If the PKK is receiving weapons from the Germans, then I think we are about to repeat a major mistake of arming once again the wrong side.
Here in the UK, fears have been growing since soldier Lee Rigby was slaughtered in London. Now, with the beheading of an American journalist by a suspected British jihadist and revelations that one of the Islamic State's key financiers was the director of a Muslim faith school in the city of Birmingham, Brits want to feel safe, and they want the government to take drastic measures.
It is abhorrent that people who declare their allegiance elsewhere are able to return to the United Kingdom and pose a threat to our national security. We're clear in principle that what we need is a targeted discretionary power to allow us to exclude British nationals from the UK.
Cameron's plan, tearing up passports from dual nationals and banning fighters from returning home from foreign conflicts. According to YouGov, 2/3 of British people support taking away citizenship from known radicals, although it's claimed that hasn't worked before.
In April 2014, Theresa May started confiscating passports using the royal prerogative. So they've been doing this exact measure that they're talking about for an extended period of time already, in many, many cases. But they rehash it and they bring it out as now a legislation so that they can look like they're being proactive against the ISIS issue, when really they're just trying failed policies.
World leaders seemed caught off guard by increasingly militarized and well-funded Islamic State jihadists who are stealing a march through Iraq and Syria, while abroad, politicians shift nervously to avoid sending their soldiers back into the Middle East. But delays and indecisiveness could ignite the time bomb that will bring the terrorists to them. Marina Kosterova reporting from London for RT.
Well, the flow of jihadi volunteers from the EU has sparked some radical ideas from Western officials. The Mayor of London has even proposed labelling anyone who travels to Iraq and Syria without telling authorities as a terrorist until they prove their innocence. And the idea found little support, with more than half of those surveyed saying no to the plan. Well, for more on this, I'm joined live now by Asghar Bukhari, head of the Muslim Public Affairs Committee in the UK. Thanks very much for coming on, Asghar. Firstly, what do you make of these proposals that we've heard there from the Mayor of London? Does this kind of idea help the situation, do you think?
No, it doesn't. It plays directly into the growing feeling amongst the global Muslim community and also the Muslim community here in Britain that the government has it in for Muslims, and in general the West, Western countries, America and Britain in particular, are waging some sort of war against the Muslims of Islam. This type of rhetoric only plays into that wider, broader narrative.
But do you appreciate something needs to be done? I mean, what would you suggest to tackle the problem?
Of course, something needs to be done, but the governments that are involved in this, that have caused so much of a crisis in the Middle East, are unwilling to deal with the central point here. It's like looking at the cracks and not realising that there's a massive overflow of water and the dam's going to break because of it. The real central problem here is foreign policy. Our policy across the Middle East has been totally destructive, and not just the war in Iraq, but across the board. And what you're seeing with groups like ISIS and Al Qaeda and the Arab Spring is a reaction to that. They are Muslims in that region are no longer willing to accept what they think is an unjust order, and by bombing them into submission, by droning them or kidnapping them or sending them to secret prisons around the world, by and torturing them there, only reinforces that the belief within the Muslim world that something is wrong, and nothing is going to stop these guys unless, as these groups like ISIS are now saying, unless you take up arms. So why are we giving them more of the same? Something needs to change, and that is we need to adjust our foreign policy, make it ethical, and B, teach young Muslims, if we're going to deal with a British problem here, that they can make a change to that foreign policy by being involved in the system.
Okay.
As long as politicians say the Muslims are the other side and we can't be involved in that system or feel alienated from that system, you're going to have a terrorism
Mr. Bukhari, OK, we understand that around 500 jihadi volunteers from the UK are fighting with the Islamic State. In your opinion, what's actually driving them to be radicalised? What's driving them to take up arms in Syria and Iraq?
Initially, I believe that people went to Syria because they felt that Assad was committing a crime, and they wanted to help those people who were fighting him in Syria. Obviously, it's now changed. The whole dynamics changed with the growth of ISIS going into Iraq. Now, if some of those fighters who were initially in Syria have joined ISIS, it's because they feel that the order that primarily the European countries in 1915 and America now upholds within the Middle East by propping up dictators and denying Muslims their right to choose their government is so failed. They've lost so much faith in that. They no longer even believe in a democracy because they think it would be undermined. So they feel that the Islamic State, no matter how barbaric it is better than what they currently have. So for them, it's like an ideal better than the hell that they're living in. And there's the problem, that the United States and Britain have made such a mess of the Middle East that anything is better than what they're given to a lot of young Muslims out there.
OK, we have to leave it there, but thank you very much for your thoughts. That's Ashghar Bukhari, head of the Muslim Public Affairs Committee, live from the UK. Thank you.